Welcome guys, it's Phil from 15 Minute Guitar Practice. In this video we're going to continue to celebrate the minor pentatonic shapes. Now in the last video we raised the roof and did a whoop whoop for minor pentatonic shape 1 because it's awesome in so many ways. But I'm here to say there's something else. There are other minor pentatonic shapes that you will come to learn. For me personally, it was years before I knew of the existence of these other shapes. You can laugh, but in a pre-internet world, knowledge was not that accessible. Okay, so I worked with Pentatonic Box Shape 1 for years, but there are others. I want to tell you about the others, and I want to tell you some things that confuse me about the others that may be confusing you. Hopefully I can iron a couple of things out. So, Minor Pentatonic Box Shape 1, we've already talked about. It's awesome, it's easy to remember, and if you're in A minor, it is frets 5 and 8, 5 and 7, 5 and 7, 5 and 7, 5 and 8, and 5 and 8. So you've got 2 notes per string, you've got a bunch of left hand notes, and you've got a bunch of right hand notes. Now when you move up to the other shapes, the right hand notes of shape 1 become the left hand notes of shape 2. So if this is my right hand note for shape 1, when I move to shape 2, this is the first note in shape 2. So every time you play that in shape 1, one of these notes, da, 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 these become the left hand extremity notes of shape 2. One of the things that confused me when I learnt shape 2 was how it sounded compared to shape 1. When I was playing shape 1 over an A minor chord, I could hear that it worked. There's my A minor chord, and there was my A minor pentatonic shape 1. When I moved to shape 2, it didn't sound to me like it fitted over that. Didn't sound like A minor, it sounded like it should fit over a C. Now why was that? It's because I mistook the lowest note in shape 2 for the root note, and it's not. It's not the root note. Okay, minor pentatonic shape 1 is the only shape out of the 5 pentatonic shapes that has the first and lowest note of the box shape as the root note. None of the others do. Okay, so that's really important to remember. In fact, when you move to shape 2, I think it's the 5th note, all the way up here, which is the root note. And so therefore, when you are practicing these other shapes, it's important that you start the shape at the root note. So, and then after that you should descend further below the root note, and then ascend back up to the root where you started. That way it still does sound like it's an A minor. And you're also both visually and sonically hearing that it still belongs in A minor. So keep that in mind when you practice all the shapes, okay? So people often ask me if I know pentatonic box shape 1, the minor pentatonic box shape. If I know that shape and it works, why would I learn the other shapes? And that's a really good question, I've got to say, because the other shapes of the minor pentatonic contain exactly the same notes as the first shape you've learned. So I can understand why people say, well, it's the same notes wherever I play it, so why wouldn't I just play the one I know and love? Well, I think the answer's twofold, once again. The first one is you kind of need, eventually, to extend your knowledge of the fretboard a bit. So you can get away with box shape 1 for a pretty long time. I definitely did, but beyond a certain point in your playing, you kind of need to start filling in some of the blanks, and learning the other shapes is part of that process. But the reason that guitarists favour one shape over another and maybe change positions during their solos is to do with the access to notes you can bend. Okay, so we talked about the Minor Pentatonic Box Shape 1 and how the top 3 strings are awesome to bend, because if you take these right hand extremity notes, sounds great on the first string, sounds great on the second string, sounds great on the third string. That's because you can bend these right hand extremity notes, okay? But if you move up to Box Shape 2, for example, these right hand extremity notes become your left hand extremity notes, and a new set of notes becomes your right hand extremity notes. So if you wanted to bend this one now, you've only got one finger to do it, and while it can be done, your accuracy and finger strength isn't going to be as much as if you played it in this Box Shape 1 position. So that's why guitarists change positions, because they want to get to other notes in the other box shapes that sound good when they bend those, as opposed to some others. So that one on the first string sounds good. The one on the second string in Box Shape 2 is not a scale note. You're not bending it up to a minor pentatonic scale note. It kind of doesn't sound too bad. But it's not a scale note. And here, it's not. So the reason we use different shapes depending on whereabouts on the fretboard we are, and our choice of position, is to do with our access to these notes and how we want to phrase those notes. You know, some shapes are better for phrasing in certain areas of the fretboard than others, and so it's personal choice, but it's really, in the first instance, I think, to do with access to those notes. Some notes you can bend in certain places in certain shapes better than you can for others, and so that's why. Another thing that can often confuse is when you play the scale and you hear or read that it's a pentatonic scale, and pentatonic means 5 notes or 5 tones. Penta is 5, like pentagon. You're going, okay, it's a 5-note scale, but I played more than 5 notes just then. So what's up with that? Well, the answer is we do play 5 notes, and then we repeat them higher up. So if you play the first 5 notes, you'll hear that the next bunch of notes in this scale, the next 5, are exactly the same as the first 5, just in the higher octave. And if you continue to play the remaining 2 notes in the shape, you can hear it starts to continue that pattern for a 3rd time. So there's only 5 notes in the actual scale itself, but those notes are repeated. So that's the answer. There's also the same 5 notes in every different shape. There are 5 shapes, okay? Here's shape 1. And here is shape 4. Same notes, sounds a bit different, but if I went and I went, you can hear that those are the same notes, just higher up. Okay, so they are the same notes, the same 5 notes in every shape, and although there are more notes in the scale shape, the actual names of those notes are repeated once you reach the first octave. Hope that helps. If you've got any more questions about the minor pentatonic, just leave a comment down there, and I'll do my best to help you out. Bye for now.